a la economía gibraltareña y a la economía del campo de Gibraltar.
El aeropuerto gibraltareño es una muestra de cómo los problemas políticos perjudican a la economía de la zona. Todos reconocen que si estuviera abierto a los vuelos españoles, beneficiaría al comercio y al turismo de España y Gibraltar. Un rudimentario sistema de pasos a nivel permite circular a coches, aviones y peatones por las mismas pistas. Pero aquí solo llegan vuelos de Inglaterra y Marruecos, porque temiendo perder soberanía, Gibraltar boicotea el acuerdo de uso conjunto firmado por Inglaterra y España. Cada 2 horas se puede ver el cambio de guardia ante el palacio del gobernador militar, el máximo representante del gobierno de la reina de Inglaterra en la colonia. Estos soldados pertenecen al millar de militares británicos que aún queda en Gibraltar y que sigue disminuyendo. Hoy el Ministerio de Defensa de Londres proporciona el 10% de empleo y de los ingresos, pero en el pasado la base militar fue el principal sostén económico de la colonia. Gibraltar ha tenido que llenar ese hueco con otras actividades. La principal ha sido un centro financiero para atraer empresas y bancos. Como otras colonias británicas, Gibraltar se ha convertido en un paraíso fiscal.
Las colonias que son más o menos del tamaño nuestro o más pequeñas se han dedicado a desarrollar el centro financiero principalmente porque es una industria anglosajona, donde el idioma es el inglés y predomina instituciones bancarias y financieras bien de la City o de Wall Street.
Este barco es una clínica ocular rusa atraída aquí por las ventajas de Gibraltar y de su situación privilegiada entre Europa y África. En un año han pasado por aquí 20.000 pacientes, la mayoría españoles y británicos. Los salones y camarotes han sido adaptados para hacer todo tipo de tratamientos y las operaciones más avanzadas. Cada enfermo paga una media de 500.000 pesetas, pero por estar en Gibraltar, esta clínica rusa solo paga unas 130.000 pesetas al año de impuestos.
Tenemos una serie de ventajas, digamos, fiscales en el sentido, estamos registrados como una compañía en Gibraltar, como puede estar el Banco de Madrid o cualquier otro banco que se establezca en Gibraltar, offshore. Por tanto, tenemos que pagar una serie de impuestos, son menos de los que pagaría otra empresa, pero eso es Gibraltar o puede ser cualquier otra zona que los impuestos son más bajos.
Flox asegura que sus tratamientos tienen mucho éxito, pero los oftalmólogos europeos han denunciado a la clínica por competencia desleal. Además, gracias a las peculiaridades de Gibraltar, los 60 médicos y enfermeros rusos de Flox pueden ejercer en Europa sin convalidar sus títulos como exigen las autoridades europeas. Flox es solo una de las 50.000 empresas registradas en Gibraltar. En general, estas empresas no tienen una sede y están domiciliadas en despachos de abogados. Según el gobierno español, algunas empresas sirven para evadir impuestos de España. ¿Qué hacen estas empresas? ¿Por qué hay tantas empresas?
La mayoría de las empresas o sociedades se hacen de esa clase, se hacen para hacer negocios fuera de Gibraltar y no pagar impuestos, sino una prima anual, pero eso se hace a personas que traen avales, 2 avales de integridad y uno bancario, aunque a primera vista todos los que tienen compañía son personas decentes y de standing, de categoría, y la mayoría de ellos no hacen más que eso.
A pesar de sus 80 años, Sergioso Hassan sigue trabajando en su despacho de abogados, uno de los más importantes de Gibraltar. Durante medio siglo dirigió los destinos de la colonia. En su época se empezó a hacer fácil y barato el registro de empresas, un sistema muy criticado en España porque se considera que encubre todo tipo de actividades ilegales.
En ninguna parte del mundo puede usted parar que haya un testaferro y que haya gente detrás. Si lo hay, si se detecta, se para. Pero es decir que estamos limpios, completamente más limpios que nadie, no, ni más ni menos.
En el paraíso fiscal de Gibraltar se han instalado 29 bancos, la mayoría españoles y británicos. Para asegurar la legalidad de las operaciones, el gobierno británico ha nombrado a un comisario financiero, Mr. John Milner. Milner asegura que el control es estricto.
Petty little bits and pieces you will never stop, but there's no evidence at all to suggest that there's any money laundering of substance going through the banking system of Gibraltar. And if anybody has any evidence to suggest that, I would like to know it. But there isn't any.
Las lanchas que surcan el puerto de Gibraltar se han convertido en otro suculento negocio con el gobierno de Joe Bossano. A todas horas, estas potentes planeadoras zarpan de Gibraltar hacia España, transportando tabaco. Sus tripulantes son jóvenes gibraltareños, incluso menores de edad.
Aquí en Libertad es legalmente poder transportar tabaco a donde nos dé la gana, y el trabajo, como esto es músico, no hay trabajo, pues casi el 95% de la juventud se dedica a transportar tabaco.
Los vecinos están desesperados por el ruido y las mafias que conlleva este tráfico. De día el tabaco se almacena junto al muelle. Los porteadores son todos chicos jóvenes que ganan como mínimo 40.000 pesetas a la semana.
Hay gente que saca más, bueno, esta gente en 2 horas se sacarán 100, 150.000 pesetas.
¿Cuál? ¿Los que van en la lancha?
Sí, claro. Un dueño no ve, un dueño en una doseta hace 3 o 4 millones.
Las cargamos aquí y nos dirigimos a las playas españolas y las entregamos allí, fuera. O podemos estar todas las noches enteras. Toda la noche entera podemos estar. ¿Cada día o...? Todos los días, de mientras que esté la más buena, vamos. Porque caja siempre hay.
Ese tráfico ilegal de tabaco indigna al gobierno español, pero algunos gibraltareños también creen que hay que pararlo.
No por proteger los intereses españoles, sino por nuestro propio bien, el bien de nuestro propio imagen público. Sí me preocupa la actividad de las lanchas rápidas. Lleven lo que lleven, dado de que no es una manera convencional de hacer comercio internacional.
Pero el gobierno gibraltareño lo permite porque ese tabaco paga impuestos en el peñón y deja mucho dinero.
Yo no veo por qué es más escandaloso que entre en España tabaco en una lancha que viene de Gibraltar que entren contenedores de tabaco.
En una céntrica plaza de Gibraltar se reúnen las chicas que salen del colegio. Allí les esperan los chicos de su edad. Son los que han acabado la escuela, pero han renunciado a la beca para estudiar en Inglaterra. Dicen que no trabajan porque el gobierno de Bossano anuló el sistema de formación profesional que había en Gibraltar. Destilan riqueza y saben que si necesitan dinero pueden conseguirlo fácilmente transportando tabaco.
Socialmente para Gibraltar esto es malo. Lo mismo que lo es en la parte española, donde hay también gente joven, mucha gente implicada en este asunto. Esto es malo porque un día se va a parar y esta gente está desacostumbrada a trabajar.
Estos jóvenes lo saben todo sobre el negocio de las lanchas.
Hay gente que se dedican al tabaco y hay gente que se dedican a la droga, y yo pienso que los que se dedican a la droga son muy pocos.
Pero los que llevan droga ganan mucho más.
Será con 1.500 kilos, unos 60 millones de pesetas. Vamos, no dueño, un chaval que se embarque en la lancha. Vamos a Marruecos, lo recoge, lo mete en España y 60 millones de pesetas.
El tráfico de droga, aprovechando las redes del tabaco, preocupa muchísimo al gobierno español. Se calcula que las lanchas entran 1/3 parte de la droga que se introduce en esta zona de Cádiz. Y por eso la persecución de las autoridades españolas se ha hecho más implacable. En Gibraltar se mezclan muchas razas, culturas y religiones. Sus 29.000 habitantes descienden de migrantes de distintos países mediterráneos, que se han juntado con los españoles durante los últimos 300 años, desde que Gibraltar fue cedido a Gran Bretaña por el Tratado de Utrecht. Los marroquíes llegaron los últimos. En 1969, España cerró la verja y los ingleses necesitaron mano de obra para la base militar. Con la retirada británica, 800 marroquíes han quedado en paro y ahora protestan ante el palacio del gobernador británico. Piden una indemnización antes de ser devueltos a su país porque el fruto del trabajo de toda su vida está en Gibraltar.
Yo he entrado aquí joven, un niño joven, he entrado. De 25 años del trabajo, está pagando el tax, seguro, casa, comida, de todo aquí está vuelta. Y ahora ellos dicen que no tiene trabajo, está bien, nosotros podemos ir a Marruecos, pero tiene que dar algo a nosotros.
Mohamed Abida ha vivido en estos antiguos cuarteles ingleses con decenas de trabajadores marroquíes durante 25 años. Pagando unas 2.000 pesetas a la semana por cama, este ha sido su hogar. Gibraltar nunca les ha permitido traer a sus mujeres e hijos, y por estar solos han pagado más impuestos que muchos gibraltareños.
Y lo que no se puede hacer, bajo ningún concepto, es de coger a una persona que ha estado trabajando, bueno, toda su vida en Gibraltar, cuando nos interese, decir, bueno, a desintegrarlo, como se está haciendo.
José Neto es el jefe de los sindicatos en Gibraltar. Es un hombre de izquierdas que desde hace muchos años ha dirigido la lucha de los trabajadores gibraltareños para imponer sus derechos. En un tiempo, Neto y el hoy primer ministro, João Bosano, dirigían juntos el sindicato. Ahora el sindicato está en guerra con Bosano.
Al entrar en gobierno, con un programa de transparencia, con un programa de participación, con un programa dentro de unas líneas socialistas, pues hace todo lo contrario, ¿no? Y específicamente perjudica a la clase trabajadora, que fue la que lo puso ahí.
Una de las cosas que más preocupan a sindicatos y empresarios es cómo el gobierno privatiza la empresa pública de Gibraltar. Este cuadro muestra el entramado de empresas privadas creadas por el gobierno para administrar los bienes públicos del Peñón. Bosano, su gobierno y sus amigos controlan esas empresas. El miniparlamento de Gibraltar se reúne poco y Bosano se niega a dar explicaciones a la oposición sobre su gestión económica y sobre las acusaciones de corrupción aparecidas en la prensa internacional. Alega que tiene el 75% de los votos.
Y fuimos al pueblo y le dijimos que apoyara la política económica que estábamos llevando con este sistema. Y 3/4 partes del pueblo votó por el manifiesto de mi partido aprobando lo que estábamos haciendo. Y en las democracias lo que se hace es lo que decide la mayoría.
Nos puede llevar a un estado más o menos dictatorial si las finanzas y toda la gestión laboral a través del aspecto económico lo controla el gobierno, pues mira, podría ser desastroso.
Cada tarde el Estadio Victoria se llena de gente de todas las edades. En Gibraltar se hace mucho deporte porque fue una gran distracción en los 15 años que Franco cerró la frontera con España. Ahora pueden jugar en España si no van como equipo oficial de Gibraltar. El Estadio Victoria está situado junto a la pista del aeropuerto y fue remodelado cuando se construyó en una esquina una gasolinera de la empresa española Cepsa. Para el gobierno gibraltareño fue una buena inversión.
Lo que sí le puedo decir es que lo que pagaron por el terreno, por ejemplo, es muy superior a lo que han pagado por el terreno ninguna de las otras gasolineras.
Cepsa posee una refinería en la vecina bahía de Algeciras, desde la que trae todo el combustible que se vende en Gibraltar. Pero que además Cepsa tuviera su propia gasolinera en el Peñón, indignó a los gibraltareños. Por eso los principales clientes de la estación de Cepsa son cientos de españoles que van a Gibraltar para ahorrar 30 pesetas por litro de gasolina. Uno de ellos es Enrique Palmero. Palmero es español de la línea de la Concepción, pero trabajó casi 30 años en el Peñón. En ese tiempo contribuyó al Fondo de Pensiones de Gibraltar, pero ahora no cobra nada porque el gobierno gibraltareño ha liquidado el fondo alegando que no tiene dinero.
No se puede quitar a un jubilado una pensión que se entiende que es vitalicia por una decisión unilateral de un señor.
Palmero es uno de los 5.000 españoles que reclaman judicialmente su pensión al gobierno de Gibraltar. Estos jubilados creen que la liquidación del fondo de pensiones viola las leyes comunitarias, pero Bosano carga toda la responsabilidad a Inglaterra.
Sí, el problema es de ellos porque ellos fueron los que se comprometieron con el señor Ordóñez y ellos fueron los que se decidieron de no seguir pagando y el dinero es de ellos.
Ese día Enrique Palmero tardó 4 horas en poder volver a su casa en la línea, porque la frontera estaba colapsada. Las autoridades españolas revisaban los coches con controles muy estrictos.
No sirven para nada, crean odio del pueblo al opresor. Y esto ha pasado aquí, Franco puso estas barreras y estas restricciones, y el pueblo gibraltareño tiene odio hacia lo español. No me decía hacia el pueblo y pueblo, sino hacia la administración española. Y no se fían de ella un pelo.
Cada tarde la frontera se convierte en una barrera. Para los españoles que trabajan o compran en el Peñón es un tormento.
Esto que es una poca vergüenza, pues ya llevo un rato aquí yo desesperadita, vamos.
Y los gibraltareños se sienten encerrados en el Peñón.
No es lógico, ni es humano, es una poca vergüenza, francamente. Es que no se debía de permitir y ahí están jugando.
Tras la frontera, la Guardia Civil pone un nuevo control, alegando que hay que cortar el paso de tabaco, droga y de indocumentados. Sin embargo, a esa hora la mayoría del tráfico ilegal se hace con las lanchas. Al grupo gibraltareño White Trash, las dificultades para pasar la frontera les corta las alas. White Trash actúa en el Peñón, pero también en Andalucía. Aunque se sienten gibraltareños ante todo, aprecian la relación con España.
Cada vez que vienen, están creciendo los jóvenes, pues cada vez están las mentes más abiertas y... O sea, es que todo el mundo pues, van a España, ¿vale? ¿Cómo puedes criticar tú y decir, no, pues yo no quiero nada con España y después van a llegar a comprar y a salir? O sea, está todo el mundo cambiando, en verdad.
Estamos ya casi en los años 2000. Es una tontería tener estas rencillas y política por medio cuando personas son personas.
En un antiguo club de oficiales ingleses está una de las 2 academias de sevillanas que hay en Gibraltar. Aunque no cambiarían su Peñón por nada, estas gibraltareñas aprenden a bailar en las clases de James Nish, para luego ir a divertirse de lo lindo a las ferias de la vecina Andalucía.
Este es el último...
Good evening, welcome to this special edition of Newswatch on a Saturday. For the second day running, there have been ugly scenes in Gibraltar following the police operation yesterday against the semi-rigid boats. Around 30 people have been arrested for public order offences. A policeman has undergone surgery on a fractured leg after being rammed by a car, and there are also reports of heavy-handedness by the police. Stephen Nish has this first report.
The day started off peacefully enough as the police set up an outfield office to determine how many of the 60 ribs seized yesterday had their documentation in order and could be returned to their owners. However, the police say this was a complicated and protracted procedure, and the crowd was starting to grow uneasy, even though the police later decided that 2 of them were in perfect order and could be returned. Lawyer Chris Finch, acting on behalf of some of the boat owners, intervened, asking them to hold off until Monday, by when tempers would have cooled and the situation could be analyzed more coldly, but the group would not be pacified. Around 30 launch owners moved on to a bar in the waterport area, where they started drinking, becoming progressively more abusive and aggressive. The police say they were hurling abuse and trying to block the road. After a short Europa points, the group moved down to the convent, where they again closed off the road to passers-by and traffic. The demonstrators shouted insults at the governor and broke at the GS post at the entrance to the convents. It was here that the temperature of the situation rose dramatically, leading to the eventual call-in of the police wearing full riot gear. Scenes, of course, like we haven't seen in Gibraltar for quite some time. From there, it was down to the sundial. As we'll see in a moment, the most serious incidents occurred here. First, the road was blocked off by the demonstrators, much as they'd done yesterday. The riot police formed up and got ready to charge against the crowd. This was the first of around 30 arrests made at the sundial.
I was over there with my auntie, and I saw my brother coming towards me, ¿no? Another policeman went through him with bats y empezaron a pegarle fuerte, ¿no? Y cogí yo, vi a mi hermano, I saw him and I went running through him, ¿no? Y me pegaron a mí con toda la batalla, en toda la cara, me tiraron al suelo.
Were the men who were attacked and yourself, did you provoke the police at all?
No, nothing. I was just standing there, and I saw my brother coming, and I went towards him because they were smacking him. Aunque fui corriendo a salvarlo, me pegaron a mí igual.
Well, I was putting some petrol on my motorbike at the Cepsa station when a big group of cars came along. They were, you know, just shouting, give me back my lunches, and, you know, they weren't doing anything big. And then the police came, the police arrived, and they were here for a while. Everybody was shouting there, and they decided to leave. They just said, okay, let's go. And by order of the chief inspector, Sopardi, I think is, they put the cars, the police cars, across the road, not to let anyone out. And then the riot squad arrived, and they came down on the cars, and they were ordered to go in and start hitting people. And they hit everyone and anyone on the way.
Were they provoked at all? Was the police provoked?
No way, no way. The police weren't provoked at all. Nothing was said at them, nothing was done at them. They were just saying, give me back our lunches, which everybody knows what's happened with the lunches. And they just started hitting people, hitting kids, 14 years old and 13 years old girls, just walking by and just hitting them with their batons on their heads. And there was a man with a head bleeding, and he didn't even get assistance from an ambulance. He was just pushed into one of the transit cars and driven away.
This police officer sustained a broken leg and later had to undergo surgery after he was hit by a car which broke the police cordon and sped off. 3 men inside the car, a white Mercedes, were later arrested. After a high-speed chase, the car was eventually intercepted by Europa Pass. The first of several deliberately provoked fires was set alight near Bayside School in a piece of waste ground. The police say that friends and families of the people arrested continued pelting them with stones and other missiles for some time, a precursor of the further violence that was to occur later on in the evening.
Joining me on the line live now from New Mill House Police Station is the Deputy Commissioner Mario Pallas. Mr. Pallas, good evening.
Good evening.
Is the police in control tonight or not?
Well, we got all the force out, and we are being assisted as well by GSP, who have given us quite a number of men, and we are addressing all the different pockets of violence that have been erupting throughout the afternoon.
Those pots of violence continue, so are you in control or not?
Yes, at this moment in time we are. But the whole thing is continuing, and we have to monitor it very closely.
Has the police not botched today's job, Mr. Pallas?
Can you repeat that, please?
Has the police not ruined this job today?
In what sense?
Well, in the sense that there have been chaotic scenes of police brutality, basically, hitting people very, very strongly indeed. Is that justified?
Well, this is not the case.
Well, we've seen it on the screens tonight, Mr. Payas, with respect.
Pardon?
We've seen it on the screens tonight with respect.
Yes. Throughout the afternoon, the police have had to respond to a number of violent incidents, and a lot directed to the police themselves. And this is continuing at this moment in time.
The police commissioner yesterday told me that to look ahead to today and perhaps look at more events of the sort happening today was a very pessimistic view. He was wrong on that, wasn't he?
Well, obviously, I mean, because we were willing to process the question, the paperwork involving the seizing of the launches, and we in fact started to do this. Just that the people became impatient and wanted this process to be done quicker. But a number of officers from the police and customs, in fact, were selected to process this, and offices were open for Saturdays and Sunday, which normally they would have been closed. And this started at 9 in the morning, and we would have continued till about 6, working tomorrow as well. But like I said, people just got impatient, and all of a sudden the violence started to erupt.
Certainly we've seen extreme violence on Gibraltar streets today, and there are strong rumours tonight that the Gibraltar Regiment is confined to barracks. They are on standby. Will you seek their assistance?
Well, at this moment, I know that they have been confined. That's because I've heard. It's not because we ourselves have asked them to be confined. But at the end of the day, if the violence continues, and I mean, we will ask for assistance from whoever, if at the end we find that we cannot control any situation.
Have you sought assistance from London?
At this moment in time, no.
Do you think you'll need it in the future if it continues?
Well, like I said, if the violence continues and we feel that we cannot control it, if it comes to that stage, obviously we'll ask for assistance from any quarter.
What reassurance can you give the city of Gibraltar tonight?
Well, that we are trying our utmost to stop what is happening. At this moment in time, there's a group of people concentrated outside Newmont House, and we'd rather have them concentrated there than out in different areas, because what we have been finding out recently, there's been a lot of splinter groups, and obviously it becomes more difficult to control. But we are trying to regroup everybody, and like I said, a lot of people are coming in outside Newmont House because of the amount of prisoners that we have. Already we have about 35 persons arrested and in police cells.
What will happen with the ribs, the rib launchers, which obviously has been at the root of this problem? Will those be handed back?
Well, at this moment in time, nothing has been said. The ribs are there. We were trying to go through a process of looking at the papers, and those which were legal in Gibraltar, handing them back, those not legally, retaining them. But we started off this morning, and like I said, and we were working, and we were doing it. We were in the process of handing over 2, which we had to confirm they had been imported legally in Gibraltar and were complying with all the regulations. But then, like I said, the people just became impatient and they wanted everything done quickly and there and then, and this was just an impossibility. And then without any notice, I mean, the violence just erupted.
If the violence, if the ribs are not handed back, do you expect more violence tomorrow?
Well, I hope common sense prevails. I mean, we will try and continue with this process tomorrow and hope that the people will come along with all the paperwork, and if those boats are legally in Gibraltar, we will hand them back.
Mr. Payas, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Okay, thank you.
As the day wore on from earlier on this morning, the situation deteriorated with rioting and looting in Main Street. A police car was also set alight after rioters threw a Molotov cocktail at it.
The police riot squad was called in and took position at the beginning of the Main Street to prevent the demonstrators from running loose there, causing damage to shops. As the police shut off the area, groups of people on motorbikes watched them from different vantage points. The presence of the riot squad, however, came too late. Rioters had already gone berserk earlier on, damaging shop windows, breaking them down, and in some cases looting. Were you warned by the police that there was trouble here?
No, I wasn't warned, but we've been here since it's happened, and we're tidying up and clearing up and doing our best.
What are the damages? Any idea?
No, just like plate glass.
So it isn't too extensive, really?
Not at all. Not at all. Open for business as usual on Monday. Okay.
Excuse me, were you here when this happened? Were you here when this happened?
No, I wasn't, Clive, actually. I wasn't. I got a phone call at home. Somebody was telling me that the riots in town and to come down, so I just came down to close up. By the time I got here, it was too late. I couldn't put on the gates in time. So they've smashed both main windows, and they've smashed the little vitrine over here on the side as well.
Was the shop open at the time?
No, we were closed. We were closed. We normally close at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoons, and we don't open till Monday morning again.
Is the damage very extensive?
It is very extensive.
Have they looted your shop?
Yes, they have. In a very big way, yes.
Has the police been to see you about it?
Not yet. I've been standing here ever since 5:30. I've been standing here waiting for somebody to come.
But you've reported to the police that you've been looted?
No, I haven't done anything yet. I'm just so muddled up. I'm trying to clear up my side of the things first, seeing what has been stolen or what has been looted, what hasn't been looted, and then I'll eventually go to the police.
Will you be able to do business on Monday or tomorrow?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, okay. Excuse me, what's the damage they've done to you?
Well, they've broken all our entire windows, and I don't see why, because we're not even involved in any of this. And it's going to be, heaven knows when we're going to get it all sorted out. We're trying to look for somewhere to bought it so we can sleep tonight. But let's pray for Gibraltar, Clive. It's a sad day for us.
Has the place been looted? Have you lost anything?
At the moment, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like we've got anything looted, just damage. Just total damage, as you can see, to the windows. And like I said, it's a very, very sad day for Gibraltar. A window can be repaired, but souls can't, you know. And
Will you be ready for business tomorrow?
I don't think so. Hopefully by Monday we'll be up and going again. But tomorrow may be a bit too optimistic. Monday, hopefully, we'll be up and going. God bless. Thank you.
The broken glass of the main street, the rioters moved on to other targets. At the North Mole, a police car was attacked by youths in motorbikes wearing balaclavas. A Molotov cocktail was thrown into the car, which instantly caught fire. Luckily, the occupants escaped unhurt.
Well, earlier today we spoke to an eyewitness of those disturbances in Main Street. Christine Clifton asked her for her impressions.
Where all these people shouting and, you know, all sort of language, all sort of words, and then one or two running and starting fire under the wheelbarrow, the flower wheelbarrow under the ICC. And then, I didn't see it, but then the pillow box started getting into flames. And then somebody, I think it was from the same crowd, came and put the fire off the wheelbarrow.
Just how large was that crowd?
Oh, I couldn't say. It filled up all, you know, apart from the Burger King to opposite to the ICC. But there were all sorts of ages there.
Was there a police presence? Or?
No, at the moment, well, I'll tell you when the police came. And then we saw the fire brigade coming, not the big car, the smaller one. And they started to all shouted at each other to push the fire brigade car to tirarlo al suelo.
You say there's a huge crowd stretching right across. Were they covering most of the casemates, the actual car park there?
Not the car park, from Burger King to the opposite pavement of the ICC.
And somewhere in balaclavas?
They were not balaclava, their own T-shirt. They made it a sort of a balaclava. So, you know, they took off their T-shirts and made sort of balaclava.
So they were all covering their faces?
Covering their faces, yes. And they took the thing from the traffic, you know, the post they put on...
The traffic signs?
No, not the traffic light, the post that they put to cross the road.
The barrier, yes.
The barrier. And with that, they started banging on the window of the VHS. Broken.
Did you witness any looting at all?
Yes, a few. But a few looting.
That eyewitness over those pictures, apologies for them being unedited, just coming into our newsroom now. Latest reports indicate that there are 7 casualties. 2 of these, a policeman who suffered a broken leg and a civilian with a head injury. At the Royal Naval Hospital, casualties have been treated too. These included 3 police officers. None of these casualties have suffered serious injuries. Meanwhile, a spokesman for the Foreign Office has told GBC that they're monitoring the situation from London. He said that the rioting is of concern. It is not at this stage seen to be beyond the capabilities of the local law enforcement agencies. The spokesman added that the Foreign Office has every confidence in the Gibraltar emergency services to cope with the situation, but that further steps would be taken if considered necessary. In Gibraltar, the convent has said that they will be making no statements on the current situation at this stage. The spokeswoman only remarked that the Royal Gibraltar Police is handling the situation and have the convent's full support and confidence. Following the reports of criminal damage and looting in Main Street, the Chamber of Commerce has said the situation has become totally unacceptable. Speaking to us a short while ago, the Chamber's president, Joe Holliday, has said they back the law enforcement agencies 100% for order to be restored immediately and in the strongest possible terms. But joining me on the line now is the Vice President of the Chamber, James Gallero. Mr. Gallero, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr.
Hello,
Gallero.
Gerard.
What have been your impressions of today's events?
Well, I think the saddest thing about today is that many in this community have predicted today's events for a number of years now. And I think it's awful and it's quite frankly shocking what many in this community have witnessed in a situation where, frankly, Gibraltar was proud of its reputation for being a safe place, a place where we had a family community here, which was one of the most special things about this place. And today that has been thrown out of the window. I've seen people crying today in the streets. I've seen a mother very nearly run down on a pavement while she was pushing her twin children in a pram. She was hysterical with fear, thinking that the people on these bikes were going to run her over. I think the worst thing about this is that whatever the problems that we face as a community, we cannot have a situation where the community turns on itself. We have too many problems in this community as it is. We're facing difficulties from Spain, we're facing difficulties from abroad, and we cannot afford to have what we've seen today in this town.
Do you have any comments to make on the way that the police has handled the situation?
I think they've been, unfortunately, totally and utterly ineffective. And there is absolutely no question we have a situation in Gibraltar today which I think few, certainly in my lifetime, probably in many generations, will have never seen what we've witnessed here in Gibraltar today. And I think it's the saddest thing that I've witnessed ever in my lifetime.
At this stage, do you think that help from London should be sought?
I think law and order is absolutely essential. Whatever the grievances of the individuals concerned, there's absolutely no excuse. I saw one man literally have to swerve off the road to avoid people and had a very serious car accident this afternoon. There are innocent people, and many people have had their shop windows broken. Many people can't afford this kind of a problem today. And we're literally, I think, the tragedy of what's happening at the moment is that this community is being torn apart. And I tried speaking to the Chief Minister, but I understand he's very busy. He's trying to get away to New York at the moment. He basically said, or his office, Mr. Montado, the Administrative Secretary, said, you know, there's nothing they could do about it. I then tried to speak to the governor today to see what was going on, and again, too busy, not possible to speak to anybody.
Would you prefer Mr. Bolzano to stay in Gibraltar as opposed to flying to New York tomorrow or the day after?
Absolutely no question. This community is facing its gravest test ever. It is being torn apart at the seams, and I think it would be absolutely the worst thing possible for Mr. Bolzano to leave Gibraltar at this hour. It would be, it would be an abdication of responsibility which I think would be appalling.
Who ultimately, Mr. Gallero, in your view and in the business community's view, whom you represent, is ultimately responsible for the scenes we have witnessed today, indeed the whole episode of fast launches which has resulted in this tragedy this Saturday?
Well, there is no question that the situation has been allowed to go from bad to worse for too long. I'm not one to sort of get into a situation where I'm going to be pointing the fingers at any specific individual, but there is no question that this government has a lot to answer for. There is a situation today in Gibraltar which I think few people would ever have believed possible.
Does the situation call for resignations, do you think?
I think that the community will have to, on Monday morning, when people wake up in the cold light of day, if the thing hasn't been brought under control by then, I imagine people will be asking very, very soul-searching questions about where we have gone in this community. This was one of the most special places, in my submission, one of the most special places in the world. We had something here which was amongst the best in the whole world, and we have seen something happen today. We have lost our innocence as a place.
Mr. Gallero, many thanks for those words this evening. Well, incidents around Gibraltar continue, and we are continuing to receive information at the GBC newsroom. We will continue to keep you informed throughout the weekend if the situation indeed develops. For the moment, that is our special edition of Newswatch this Saturday. Have yourselves a good evening.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Newswatch on Sunday the 9th of July to cover the latest developments in the civil unrest crisis over the banning of rubber inflatable boats. The Chief Minister, Joe Bossano, has said that lawlessness such as that seen yesterday in Gibraltar will not be tolerated. In a ministerial statement broadcast by GBC a few minutes ago, Mr. Bossano outlined the background to the measures implemented on Friday, which resulted